Alright, good evening people, welcome back. I appreciate you taking the time to do exactly what a college-bound student would do, put in that extra work outside of class. So today we're going to be talking about chords. Pull out those notes that I gave you yesterday, or 2 days before if it's A-Day. And today we're going to be talking about chords. There's 4 specific properties that we're going to use to solve problems today. Now, it's very important that you pay close attention as I'm going through these, and if you get confused at all, be sure to press pause, rewind, and see if maybe listening to it again might help you understand it better. We're going to start off with the first page of notes. This says chords property number 1. Now, follow along. It says 2 minor arcs are congruent, writing congruent here, if and only if their corresponding chords are also congruent. So here's basically what that means. These 2 chords here, my 2 marks, that lets me know that those 2 chords are congruent. And if these 2 chords are congruent, then so are the arcs that correspond with those chords. So, let's talk about what that means. So it says in the figure above, QP, to put QP is congruent to RS. And since QP is congruent to RS, then arc QP, so this time QP with the arc symbol, arc QP is also going to be congruent to arc RS. It's that simple. And it makes sense. This chord stuff, there's going to be 4 different properties, and I want you to think about it in a common sense type of way. These lines, they look like they're exactly the same lengths, and so do these arcs. They look exactly like they're the same measure around as each other. So think about it. These 2 lines are congruent to each other, and so are the arcs that connect those 2 lines. So let's go on to see what this looks like in the form of a problem. Right below that, you have guided practice for example number 1. So this is the figure that we have. I'm going to blow it up so you can see it. Okay, it says if the measure of arc GH equals 100, find the measure of arc IJ. So this is GH, it's the arc that goes from G all the way around to H. We learned about arcs last class. This is 100. It wants us to find IJ, that arc. Now, I just told you, if these 2 chords are congruent, then the 2 arcs are going to be congruent. They put these tick marks here for a reason. They want you to know that these 2 chords are congruent. So what do you think? If this arc is GH, what do you think my arc IJ is going to be? Hope you said 100, because that's going to be the answer. IJ is going to be 100. This answer, for question number 1, the measure of arc IJ equals 100 degrees. Let's go on to question number 2. A little bit more difficult, but still the same concept is involved here. So it says the measure of arc GI equals 55, and the measure of arc HJ equals 115. It wants you to find the measure of arc GH. Now, if there's anything I taught you, fill in this information as you see it. So it says the measure of arc GI equals 55. So I'm going to go from G to I. This arc equals 55 degrees. The measure of arc HJ equals 115. I'm going to go from H to J. This equals 115. Now, remember from that video we showed last class, how many degrees are in a full circle? 360. Vince Carter knows notes with 360 degrees. So I know this whole thing together has to add up to 360 degrees. Well, let's see how much we have so far. Well, 55 plus 115. Pull out your calculators if you want to. I have 170 degrees so far. Well, how much is left over? 360 minus 170. That's going to equal know I need help with my math. That can't be right. Yeah. 190. Don't laugh at my math. So I know I have 190 left between these two. I know my two chords are congruent, so my two arcs are also going to be congruent. I'm going to split this 190 straight down the middle in half. So my last calculation, 190 divided by 2, that's going to equal 95 degrees for each one of these. 95 degrees for this side, and also for that arc as well. So my answer, the measure of arc GH, is 95 degrees. Now I'm going to leave number 3 for you to try on your own. Come into class, be ready to discuss that question. So that was property number 1. Two chords are congruent, their corresponding arcs are also going to be congruent. Make sure you watch the next video. We're going to talk about property number 2.